different couch than last time. Different texture. Same kind of wall,
Yes.
almost.
Okay. So, last time, what was last time the theme? What was resonating? What did we talk about? What was the essence?
We spoke a lot about, for me to put it in like a sentence, it's about growing up, and it's taking this radical, if you want to call it radical, but this ownership of yourself, taking responsibility of yourself, your actions, emotions, and yada yada, all that stuff, and becoming yourself and being unapologetically you or
Yes.
me.
Yes.
So really hot topics, and I loved the talks about the layers of relating or relationships. I don't know if you call it relationships or relating.
The 4 pillars of relating, but just like relationship is just, I talked about that. I don't know anymore what relationship is, or in a way, except it's defined.
Yeah, and the 3 types of masculinity.
Mm-hmm.
Super good talk. It's a lot going on in the world about this masculinity thing also, and spirituality combined with dudes. And we can use spirituality as some kind of protection to not be taking ownership, instead of throwing some words and telling people to fuck off in a nice way.
Because I'm live, I'll just pick my teeth.
Oh, that's wonderful. I love the sound when you pick your teeth.
Can you hear it?
Yeah. I can do that. I really do that.
I mean, the funny thing is, this raw. It's uncut. It's real, and it's human. So we had a conversation 2 weeks back of where I just idiotically deleted the file, and then I couldn't recover it. And we talked about co-regulation, codependency, different dynamics in relationship, and you ask if we can pick that up again.
Yeah, I wanted to pick that up again because you fucked it up, and I think people need to hear it, and I need to hear it more. And there's some more questions coming in about that from my side, and not only talk about this codependency relating or relationship and this nervous system regulating in partnership, but also with kids and parents, how it works and what you bring with you to your adulthood from what you learn and so on. I think those topics were super interesting. And now I'm gonna to make a new podcast together with you. Usually I do whatever comes up, but now we're gonna try to be like rewind and remember what we spoke about.
Maybe we start from what your memory still is, and where do you have the desire to dig deeper in, and just like having a refresh.
Before we do that, do you have any kind of input, feedback, or any thoughts that came up when we talked last time?
When it was about being unapologetically me. No, I think there was a really round, good, deep conversation that we had, and I like what you have done with it, with Opus clips and having the shorts with it, and actually took it on. I just uploaded an interview that I had 2 days later with a friend and colleague, with Naeem, about sexual de-armoring, and he was just full on fire, and I actually did the same thing, uploaded on Opus, and then I just like shared it to Instagram.
Isn't it wonderful?
It's just
non-paid ad right now.
It's
Maybe
so
they
good.
want to pay us for this.
It's so fantastic.
It's so nice.
So I give it to you.
Yeah, I noticed one thing. I noticed how much I need voice activating and the armoring, because my voice, I've been thinking about it last like 10 episodes I've done. It's been like this. I talk like this, and go like this.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not being like, something has changed the last couple of days. It's becoming more and more like I want to talk. Like, yes, it's okay that you hear me.
Mm-hmm.
I don't need to be quiet
Mm-hmm.
and talk quiet.
Mm.
So that also changed after we talked in the last
Mm.
podcast. So that was cool.
Oh, cool when I have that impact on you, just like through talking. Just like I
Oh,
hope there are many people out there having a similar experiences
I
just through
think
listening.
I think you have. I think you have, and I'm very happy for that. So thank you.
Okay.
Okay, so going back to the codependent relating in relationships, we talked about it because I felt like there is something, maybe, you can romanticize things and say, like, yeah, we do fill each empty spots, or, we're perfect together. When we're together, we're whole.
Mm-hmm.
And that makes us like a strong team. But for me, it's been looking more like, fuck, yeah, I love this. I love you. I love being with you. But instead of looking at like, yeah, this is romantic, I started to look at think, or you can see it almost in any relationship, that is this a crutch that I need from you in order to feel more whole, or feel more secure about myself, or have more self-confidence, or being able to be with my kids. So started to look at those things as crutches, and you were talking about these crutches too. Like when you start identifying them, things start to happen maybe.
Yeah, the crutches, and we just talked about that. There's nothing negative or
No.
wrong. Just we have all kind of different survival mechanism and
Mm.
strategies to belong and to be loved and to fit in, and these crutches have been over a lifetime becoming an ally and a superpower in a way that we can use of. Um, so we don't want to just like kick them off and make them wrong and trying to get rid of them. It's just like, no, we just want to make an empowered choice when we need them. So when we actually accessing them, or when we don't need them, and then not having anything you can fall back on, and then the crutch is the crutch. So, but on one point, if you can walk on your own, you don't need the crutch anymore, but you don't need to break it. You can put it with gratitude in the corner, and whenever you need it, you put it back on. So from this perspective, I just would like to have a look on when we relate how we sometimes misusing each other as these crutches, and then giving our power away to somebody else's being or way of and you said one word just like a few sentences back about romance and romanticize a relationship in a way, and it's really an interesting dynamic. And I was looking into that when it comes to relationship, and we just talked about that when we had breakfast, that in 2010 also, when I said, I was like, I don't want to have a relationship because I don't know what relationship is. It's just a concept of words that is being filled up from different angles and direction with different values, and then we expect the other person to live up to our values of how we think relationships should be, what we got from our parents or from friends or somewhere else, or read it in books, and then if we project that on our partner and our partner's not living up to this expectation, we literally create a separation rather than a relationship. So from this perspective, when I stopped having relationship, I actually realized that a romantic relationship is something that I was after my entire life, and then this feeling of what is romance. So the sensation of beauty and nice candles and nice music, and as always, happy ever after in this way. So first of all, I just would like to put I like beauty, and I want to put beauty on a side because I just want to have beauty environment or beautiful experiences that I define as beautiful. But the structure or the essence of a romantic relationship comes from, the word romantic comes from Rome or Roman, and that's literally the ancient structure of how to relate together, that there is a marriage, it's one person with another person, is happy ever after, is till death takes us apart, is this thing when you just look that back and historically look that up. Romance is the bind of land to people who getting married and getting a piece of land from the church. That literally the land is literally combined to under the umbrella of the church married people.
Okay, that sounds very practical and non-romantic.
It's
as we think
non-romantic.
what romantic
It's non-romantic at all.
and kind of forced.
It's forced, and this is how land got divided and just cut in pieces, and then to people that they literally are in the community of church, that they're as well.
Yeah, the chosen people as well that are in the community, not the other ones who not align with the same thoughts or ideologies and so on.
Yes. So this is the essence, the roots of romance, but then it just got through, Walt Disney and Mickey Mouse and all this.
But that's nice romance.
It's
the storytelling.
It's a story. Romance is a story in a certain way, and it always ends in the prince gets the princess and they live happy ever after, and the bad witch and the evil people, they are finally in romance, romantic relationship or relationship, the way how I have no idea what it is, it's just gone. What is a relationship? I don't know what a relationship is, so I need to define it for myself if I want to relate with somebody else, how I want that relationship to be in alignment with my values and the values of the other person.
Yeah. So so first of all, the thing with the romance part, what happened there? Like you just figured out like there's no romance, there's only a story.
Yeah, it just died in me. It was just gone.
So how do you, if we use the old world romantic, how are you romantic today?
Well,
because we don't want you to look squarey.
Yeah.
Because you are not squarey. You're a very humble and nice guy.
If I look, thank you, I take that as a compliment. When I look into this thing of what romance is to me, essentially as an energetic, it's something beautiful. For example, when you think of a romantic candlelight dinner, it's like, I don't know why this is actually romantic. I don't know by definition, but it's nice. It
feels good.
It feels good. Have a nice environment. Have some candles, a good glass of wine,
nice
maybe
gestures,
a fire, nice music. You are present with the person. You relate. You engage. You have a conversation. I love that. I love, having a romantic evening. Means, yeah, just let's have quality time together, have nice music, it's warm, having a bath, just having a nice conversation, being in proximity and intimate and sharing feelings and beautiful, but I don't know what makes it romantic. It's a concept and a structure that we put on a word.
I would say like it's loving in some way.
Yeah.
Then if going back to the word romantic, well, that's not, if we compare it to the real romantic stuff, that's not the same. So
beauty, I love, niceness. I like it warm and silky and smooth and pleasant. It's just comfortable, comforting. I like that, and I prefer that to be spontaneous in a cold kind of edgy room where I just like try to figure out how I can just like get a turn on. This is not the idea behind that, but the conceptualizing of romance and relationship, that when this is gone, it's gone. You can't recreate it.
No, because it's a concept. It's like the concept of being together, like we are in a relationship, partnership. It's like, okay, and then when you become friends, what happens then? What is that? That is also a concept, and the concept brings in a lot of conditioning. So if I talk about relationship, I'm together with someone. That's my view. Like, it differs from yours because I have my conditionings, I have my patterns, I have my beliefs, and then I have my partner who has the same, and then we're gonna somehow try to be together. Use that concept, we are together. What does that mean? Holy shit, we are together, but what does it mean? Like, but let's run along with it. So in real time, we try to go along with the concept of being together, and try to find each other's values, maybe, or find out like what does that mean to you, by maybe having arguments, having fights, having nice discussions. So instead of that, maybe just leave it to be, just be. Can we just be and see what do we need to call it something all the time? I think that is the most like essential part. Do we need to call things something all the time? Can we just be?
And who for, right?
Exactly.
It's a little bit like as if you just need to go out with with a little shield, not a shield, the German word, and shield, like
sign.
A sign, just like with a sign where it's written on "we fuck."
Exactly, or we're together, and that means this.
Right.
Okay, so if I'm at the bar with her, you don't talk to her because we're together. But okay, she's another opinion. You can't talk to me when we are together. Oh fuck! So it's never synchronized. So stop fucking around with the word and concept. Yeah. So getting back to the codependency part, how many people do you think, like, super roughly, and it's not a bad thing, it's just like it can be more and it can be less, which is, of course, you can have healthy ways of being dependent, codependent, I think, maybe. Now you're looking at me weirdly.
I am just weird. I had a conversation just with DN the other day, and asking, hey, can you just tell me that I'm not normal? And then says, you are definitely not normal.
Good. What is that?
Yeah, being normal, I don't know what being normal is. I think status quo, being put in that box, how to behave and how to engage, how to relate, how to work, how to do everything how you should do to be a good.
We're grasping for shit. Bullshit illusions. We're grasping for nothing and it hurts. Fuck that.
I was just talking as well with another a friend and coach, and he said just like, well, what you bring is just like help men to unchain their conditioning of how they have to be and should be. Anyway, so coming back to this piece of codependency.
That is being codependent, like you said, how you should be, how you should act, how you should take care. That is also codependency if you are in a relationship, right?
Yeah, I mean, being in relationship and codependent means that I only do something in relationship to how my partner feels about it. Yeah, so I'm whatever I do, say, plan, I just have a conversation with my partner first and see what my partner does. What is literally, I think in a good functional relationship, if you're just making plans where somebody is included, or you just want to be inclusive with your partner, then of course you consider everything that you're doing. It's just like, hey, I have this and that plan. You want to have a conversation about that. But if you don't do that and you just break the code of ethics or something like that, and then the relationship is in trouble, it's just like, I don't think so. As long as something is related to expectation and assumption and fulfilling of this expectations and assumption. It's never a free relationship. It is a codependent relationship. And I think I said that the other day. So a codependent relationship is a relationship that we most likely have seen in our past, how our parents have been related when we actually learned about relationship, seeing how parents relate or how they don't relate, what they do or what they don't do. And we're just creating our concept out of relationship, out of that. And, most of the time I said, when we're going onto this level of, the supermarket or the shopping zone where we're just trying to find different partners and trying to figure stuff out, what works well to some degree, but then on one point you just want to break free and want to go into your, I just need to get that a little lower here. So we just want to break free and want to have a different set of values, the way how we want to relate. And then we just recognize, well, I don't know how to do that because all I know is just like from my past and from my parents, and that didn't work out very well. So this codependency is when I just break that down into the structure of our nervous system and how the nervous system works. This what was making it really obvious and transparent for me is, so when we grow up as as an infant and we have a caregiver, our mother or whoever that is, cannot self-regulate. So our caregiver has no option and opportunities to, that needs to be definitely go a little bit further down. Anyway, this does its thing now. Mm-hmm. Anyway, so that when a caregiver who is not capable of self-regulating, and they're needing us or somebody else to regulate when they are dysregulated.
So by saying that, what does it mean to not be regulated?
Not being regulated, when you're regulated, you are in a neurological homeostasis. You feel relaxed, you feel
balanced,
contentment, you feel everything is good and easy and in flow. On the spectrum of survival, you are on a thriving side. You're just relaxed, all is good, nothing is threatening you. And when you're dysregulated, it's like you're constantly stressed. It's like, oh my God, what's tomorrow and what's going on? So your nervous system is in a place of dis-ease. So it's dysregulated. And most people using crutches to substitute, to feel better about themselves.
What could those crutches be?
For example, I need my partner to feel better about myself, and I need somebody else to regulate that I feel better. Without my partner, I feel anxious all the time.
Or kids?
Or kids, for example.
So kids take a lot of that stuff.
So when you had parents who have not managed to self-regulate from an empowered place, and they always have used you or their partner, and you have learned that, that's a relationship model that you carry and take into your life, into your relationship. Yeah. So when you are in a relationship with somebody else and you don't know how to self-regulate, and you have learned that in your nervous system because your mom did that and your dad did that, and this is how you have done that, and you cannot self-regulate when you are dysregulated, when you're stressed or something is going on, you need your partner to feel better.
So when you start regulating, it means that you need your partner to feel better. Yeah. Is that how you start to regulate yourself in a non-healthy way?
Well, I wouldn't say it's a non-healthy way when you do that, but it's a very limited and dependent way. It's a codependent way. So you are codependent on the other person to regulate. In the natural way of relating, it happens anyway. So we are so-called pair bonders. So that means we hanging out in tribes, in groups, and this gives us stability, who we are and how we relate and how we engage in this environment with other people. And if you're not capable of being on your own because you just constantly need this people around you to feel better about yourself, then you're literally constantly dysregulated and you're dependent on somebody else to brings you back in that place. So
So that is by getting some kind of validation, getting some kind of, like for instance, take the kid. If you have a child and you are dysregulated, and in what ways do you co-regulate with your kid in that case? Could you give me like an example?
Yeah, for example, if my parents, my mother, for example, when my parents got divorced, my mother was constant. She was sitting there crying. She was devastated and was just like, it was so bad. And I remember I was around my sad mother all the time, and I've made myself responsible that she's feeling better. And then on one point, I was start caring for her, so doing stuff that she feels better. So, but on one point, and this is where I got there's an emotional abusive structure behind that. On one point, I don't know how old I was, 7, 8, 9. I was just already very tall, so I was not that much smaller than she was. So we were going out and doing a walk, and I have as well 2 siblings, the same age-ish. And I remember that I was the one who always was going with her on the walk. So she was actually taking me on these walks. And on one walk, she putting her hand around my shoulder, what was kind of nice. But then she said, okay, if people would see us, they would think we are a couple.
Wow. Okay.
So on this point...
How old were you?
I don't know, maybe 10 or something like that, or 9. I can't really remember. And so that I felt myself being responsible because I was the replacement for my father. So she literally emotionally took me on this replacement, where she has regulated herself through using me in proximity as a replacement for my father or for her, for a partner. This said, this is a model that I have taken on and inherit, and I take through life and for many, many relationships.
So what happens in your or what had happened in your relationships when you went into that pattern? You did the same for your girlfriends as you did for your mother. You took care of them. You took responsibility for...
I am responsible when they feel bad, that what I do make them feel better. And if they feel bad and I can make them feel better, I am responsible for that they feel bad. And if they feel bad, I'm responsible in the first place that they feel bad.
Fuck, that's a deep hole.
Yeah, and I'm wondering, it took me years to dig that out and became aware of that. How many men and how many people out there are in this kind of misery, in this tumult? And I think you asked the question, well, you were about to ask the question, how many are out there suffering from that? And I see this, 80-20 equation that you have, and so that means you need to do 80% of work that you have 20% of benefit, and if you don't do the 80%, the 20% will not work. And this 80-20 equation is just everywhere in life, and I think probably 80% of all people, of all couples, and I'm pretty sure that this is probably the number.
You might be right, because when I look around, I see the same kind of behavior patterns too. It's like, it looks almost the same everywhere, just difference in scenarios and how they're behaving. But it's sad, because you see the man, he looks pretty miserable. Looks like somebody has cut off the balls. And by having balls, you don't need to be an asshole. It's just that you see, it's almost looking at some kind of a hunchback who tries to make the woman feel safe when he's totally not safe. He doesn't even want to speak up. So he's not safe with himself. And the woman is carrying around, like, thinking she has a safe man. And she's not safe either. So no one's really safe. That means, like, no one's regulated in that sense. So that's what I'm seeing.
Yeah.
I had one question for you about this. Yeah, what happens in the body when, for instance, take the kid? who starts to co-regulate with the mother. What happens with the body?
Yeah, so an interesting thing about the nervous system, so I
Mm.
just stick my teeth into the polyvagal theory.
Mm.
Stephen Porges' work was absolutely fascinating. And the function of the nervous system, specifically of the ventral vagus nerve or the social engagement system, has one kind of built-in feature that it always tries to go into the direction of safety and ease again. So whenever we are in dis-ease or in dysregulation, the nervous system tend to create a structure that we are relaxed and functional again. Yeah, so it's an autonomic nervous system, so to say. So it just builds itself back.
I wonder who programmed that. That's a super cool thing.
It's actually cool, right? I like it how it works. So a kid that is dysregulated is probably trying to do everything to go back in regulation. And I think this is in early childhood. This is where kind of when you have a caregiver who is not really aware of what's going on, and then being used kind of blackmailing. So if you're not doing this or if you're doing this, then mommy will be really sad or dad will be really angry. So it's kind of blackmailing, conditioning, programming behavior, the way how you want to have the outcome. It's just you just literally train little monkeys and little dogs to become functional in your dysfunction.
Exactly. So what happens with the bodies then? Their nervous system starts to, it runs kind of, it, because it has to be running quite wild after a while. If you are co-regulating with your parent every day, then your system must be kind of screwed up after a while.
Yeah, I think that kids they create on one point of dis-ease like a disease. Yeah, they get sick. There's so many kids out there who are having ADHD, who have not a really functional, emotional, intimate relationship with their caregivers, because there were never ever from the beginning on the eye contact. And when you have a mother who is capable of total self-regulation, doesn't need the child to co-regulate, that you have the role model of somebody can co-regulate, that you learn you can co-regulate yourself, that you're not dependent or codependent on each other to regulate each other. This is very rare. I see that, very, very little. What I see these days is you have, from the beginning on, even when there's breastfeeding or any other connections, just like child here in that arm, and on the other hand, the handy. I see parents with a kinderwagen where the child is just like trying to make connection, and mother and father just like kinderwagen, and then
Yeah.
Here where I live, just like a dad and mother with small kids, just like kid is just like trying to make connection and just like play. Don't know what play is because nobody shows in the way. Parents sits on the bank with a phone, and this is what children these days learn. And this is it's a quarter of a century that we just have phones and iPads and computers and all that kind of stuff. But I think this is what most kids do to regulate themselves, creating this, attention span, because they're so hooked on the media. They have their phone, they have their iPads, they have their gadgets, and they're gone. They're out of connection.
Yeah.
There is the eye contact. There is this learning to be with another being, and in the connection with another human being, to still being capable of self-regulating yourself. You don't make yourself dependent on what's going on the other side. Either there is a storm coming or there is completely ease. You have full access to your neurological functionality, and you can regulate yourself, even if there is, a dysregulation coming towards you, and you notice, okay, this person freaks me out, this person is already freaked out, and if I'm just like staying to hang out with that person, I will be dysregulated. I can only handle myself to a certain degree, and then I either need to leave, or I just need to just like have some self-regulating action going. Most kids have they have no tools, they have no capacity. This is just substitution, and they're just like withdrawing, and they're gone. The entire kind of the depth of emotional proximity and emotional fluency is just not existing in most kids.
No, I can see that too. I have kids, and I see that a lot. Does this have something to do with hypersexuality?
I think to a degree
It feels like it's something in there.
it's part of a self-regulating dynamic, but in form of substitution. You know? And I could dive into that as well. I just process my own little kind of lifelong addiction to being turned on. And for example, and I just dig that out. I say a few sentences about that. When I think it was when I was writing the book Orgasmic Blueprint, I was just in Spain, and I was pondering about the structure of self-regulation and co-regulation. And my mom told me that somehow, somewhere along the line, that she said that she got turned. She was breastfeeding. And I've heard that from some women said just like, yeah, breastfeeding is absolutely devastating. It's painful in the beginning, but then at one point, just like, it can be extremely pleasant.
Really? Kind of chemical.
There's a lot of neurotransmitter like dopamine and oxytocin and serotonin and all that kind of stuff that I have drunk with the milk when she was breastfeeding me. And the situation was with my mom that my brother is just a little bit older than me, was an early bird, and she could not breastfeed because he was in hospital, and then she just went home, and her milk kind of didn't came. And I don't know how my parents managed that, but my mom got pregnant again after 2 months. What breastfeeding is actually on a neurological level responsible for inhibiting the next fertilization, So when you breastfeed, there's a lot of neurotransmitter that doesn't start the ovulation again. So therefore, anyway, my mom got pregnant after my brother got born 2 months later, and I was like, yeah, universe, just like, yeah, in a nice, pretty pre-stretched womb, and I come in there, and just like 5 months without being recognized as being pregnant. And then the big shock, just like, oh my God, another one. And they were young, 19 or something like that.
Okay.
Super young. And so I have that kind of in my system in a way, but then the structure is I'm being born, and my mom said, just like, now finally she could do all that stuff that she couldn't do with my brother, who was, when I got born, he was not even a year old. So he was under a year, so there was a lot of, grandparents around and other people, neighbors taking care. And, my father was just about, I don't know, he was about military kind of thing. I don't know exactly what the story was. Anyway, she was breastfeeding me from, the first 5-6 months. And I have gotten all this neurotransmitter with the milk before my brain got developed into a personality or structure. So I had this insight of horniness and arousal before I actually could speak and think. And so it's like this goldfish swimming in water doesn't know what water is. Just like I had no idea what it was. This is my life essence from after being born. Just like, well, this, the fulfillment of hunger and horniness is just like my life essence in a way. It made me an addict probably from the beginning on to this substance. what I wouldn't say is really an addiction, because addiction came later into the equation of psychology. In the 60s or 70s, they became aware of that that's a substitution of the essence in a way, so like coffee, alcohol, nicotine, drugs, and so on. So that the life force energy that we get in is not an addiction, it's just our nature of remembering our connection to this unified consciousness, the divine, that we just experience in the womb in the first place, and then we're just trying to rebuild that our entire life. And then we're just taking every crutch and every substitution that we can get to get this bridge into this unified consciousness.
And that could be, for us men, the pussy.
And that could be for us men, the pussy, to go back into this field, what we literally have. And I can tap into that.
That is very interesting.
In a second. But what that has done to me and to many other men, I guess, is, a hypersexual activity in a way. What is literally our nature? What is nothing wrong or bad? I think in terms of nature, I think it is created and built that way, that we have a really high drive of our sexuality, what literally makes sure that our species survives. So I think it's part of the package. So there's nothing wrong or bad or finger pointing. This is just like abuse and negative and needs healing and trauma. None of this. But more in a way of just like, well, I have not been aware of that till now. I just became aware of that, just like, yeah, probably I've been hypersexual and arousal, horniness addict my entire life. And this is now just like in a way of very relaxing, while I see certain behavior in this regard of. So I've been using my horniness and this energy for self-regulation my entire life.
Okay.
Yeah.
With yourself, with others.
With myself, so or with
that's
with
pretty
others.
common. I think that is very common too.
It's very common, yeah.
Especially the sex part with yourself and others.
Yeah.
But going back to the womb and the vagina, like I've had that in like plant medicine ceremony, like the vagina, and me going in there. I've been questioning like a lot about this, like what's the drive for the pussy or the vagina? Like, am I sexualizing women now? Has it gone so far that I sexualize them because there's so much around that area? So I've been questioning, like, what is this? What's the drive? And it shows me, or the plant medicine which I use has shown me, like, you want to get up to the womb. And I'm like, what? Is that a safe zone, or what am I looking for here?
This is so interesting, and I've said that on several equations, and if anybody's watching that, please throw some stones on me if you need to.
Okay.
But to say it from that perspective, and I really highly acknowledge and honor masculinity and manhood and all that. But I have to say, from the neurological wiring, women are more advanced than men. So I call women human 2.0, and we just, if we're lucky, we go to 1.5 if we evolve.
Wow. Okay.
Strong. But what that means is we are not capable of going to this 2.0, except with an exception that when men develop a strong homosexual dynamic, what is literally, wanting to be penetrated anally in a way, what has literally to do with the nervous system functionality. And I've said that on another point, and this is just really where I said I said that to women: don't get penetrated from a man who is not being penetrated himself.
Okay, why?
And then she said, just like, are you just comparing the woman's womb with a man's asshole? And just like, well, if you want to see it that way. So she got totally offended. So was one of this, goddesses who just
What
like.
did you mean?
Well, what I mean is just, when I say that is that opens up a complete vast body of knowledge behind that. So women's sexual organs, specifically the womb. I'm not talking about the vulva, the outside, the external part of the pussy. I'm talking about the womb and the cervix. The womb, the core, has a neurological connection through the vagus nerve, through the ventral vagus nerve. So it's like a bipolar processor constantly working between the brain and the womb, the connection to nature. It's life performing, life giving, life creating. And we don't have this connection through our genitals.
Not at all.
We have zero connection from the ventral vagus nerve, the 10th cranial nerve, to our genitals. We don't have that.
Okay.
But there are, to the anus, there's an inner and an outer sphincter ring.
Yeah.
They are connected to the parasympathetic and sympathetic. So that means men who are being penetrated, they have the capability of relaxing both parts of the nervous system through the anal stimulation and prostate activation simultaneously. So there's some activation, and the there's after the 10th week when the embryo become the way, and one is just like, okay, genitals inside, genitals outside, genitals inside creating a womb, and genitals outside creating balls and the other stuff. But all organs, they have an equivalent in both bodies. The balls are literally the ovaries, and the penis itself is the clitoris, and the clitoris walls, they go inside. And the womb in itself is part of the copper gland that is related to the prostate in the man's body, and there is a part of the nerve that is dormant of the vagus nerve activity on that copper gland.
In the guy?
In the guy's body.
So you could stimulate that?
It's getting reactivated, as far as I can tell. So there are some scientific researches around that. People who are paraplegic, so people who are in a wheelchair.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Not Paralympic.
No, paraplegic. But people who have a kind of a cut in their spine and can't walk anymore, so that their lower part of the body.
I've never heard that word, but we can check it out.
We can check it out. Sorry, just like have eine deutsche Wortfindungsstörung.
All right.
All right. So so they figured out that people who are in a wheelchair, who have a cut on their spine, they have still the capability of having orgasms. Women in the womb and men anally. Yeah, and that only works because through this connection. However, that said, long story short, to come back to this thing, when your question, what is this longing of guys into pussy? What's the pussy hunt behind it?
Exactly.
Men and women, we all got born through pussy. And women who got born through pussy, who have a pussy, have a different relationship to their sexual organ because this is where they're from. It's a different thing. But we boys, we guys, we have a complete different story. We don't have a yoni.
No.
And we always just like, well, this is where we're from, and what is it? And I don't have that. I have something different. Yeah.
So we're looking for something that we had, in a way.
In a way, most of us, got kind of. Had a necklace, a pussy around the neck on one point in our life. But the thing is, and that's really, really fascinating when you look deeper into that from Gestalt therapy, for example, so from Fritz Perls, he says at one point, the feeling of unified consciousness, of oneness, is the first time in the belly when we're there.
Are we looking for oneness when we're looking for the pussy?
For oneness. Wait a second.
Did I?
No. It's really interesting, and I hope people watching that can follow the dynamics. So the thing is, when we are in our mother's womb, the universe is just around us. Just like, well, this is everything. There's oneness, completely cosmos. There's something happening, sound and light and stuff. And then there's somewhere something's coming in sometimes, and I don't know.
Daddy!
Daddy! So, but then we are born as the first separation from this unified consciousness.
Oh.
And we trying, and this is what's being said in Gestalt therapy from Fritz Perls, and then the rest of our life we try to get this unified consciousness back. And as women develop this connection to their womb and the connection that to their internal experience, as long they're not really totally demasculated in the patriarchy or whatever the story is around that. But it's just like more the natural way for women, the connection to nature and to you know, the roots, birth and death in a way. And specifically when it comes to sexuality, that women have through this vagus connection of the womb, they have like the entire, you know, built-in mechanism is there. And when the penis comes inside, it literally bridges this connection to the womb through eye contact.
How do you mean?
So the heart-womb connection through eye contact in lovemaking is literally rebuilt. And the sensation of the unified field of consciousness, the oneness, the merging into oneness happens through the woman's body, through the womb, heart, brain connection.
Yeah.
And we, when we're lucky and diving in that field, we're getting a ride. We're getting a ride in the spaceship of the woman's body.
Okay, so we get to enter the palace, or the oneness.
Right, we just get to enter the
Cosmos.
palace, the cosmos,
What the fuck are we then, the men? Are we just monkeys traveling looking for pussy? Like or cosmos?
Well, I mean, just like if you are on a level of 1.5 in this way, just like you just give gratitude and honor and love.
Yeah, that's what I do. But still, it sounds like we're missing something.
Well,
if we're going on a spaceship looking for that womb.
Yeah, you know, I think what we men do differently is we are more purpose driven. We are creating. We developing. We inventing shit. We
a lot of shit.
What's not definitely good in any regard, but
but is that a substitute for not getting the womb?
Maybe it is. I don't know. You know, when you get on one point the cosmic joke, then you see it's just like it's just all a big kind of blur of a funny kind of sense anyway. But in the bigger picture, this connection, the womb connection, allows us just like to enter back the field. And you know, I've been so many times in oneness with my partner, and it's too vast to remember. You have a kind of a residue of a memory. It feels extremely good, right? What literally is the entire sexual energy behind that? Because that's the reason why we make more of us. Because we just you know, it's not an addiction, but it's
a driver.
Other addiction is a substitution of that very behavior in the sex reward structure, and you know, as I said that as a, you know, horniness addict, and just like doing that my entire life, I kind of wonder what the self-realization through that is, not being needy anymore of need to fill up that cup.
Exactly. Is that the womb cup or the horniness cup?
Yeah, the infant hunt after pussy.
After pussy that might be connected to the womb, to the oneness.
Yeah.
So you might be. Maybe we need to find the oneness in somewhere else than the womb and the pussy.
Yes, you know, there are different structures, and I stick my nose in wherever I could. Advaita Vedanta, so Ramana Maharishi's kind of who am I, the pathway of, you know, the I doesn't exist, and it's just a construct in the brain, and so satsang, you know, I just traveled for years and just met so many people in there. But what I've seen is that specifically in that as a tradition in a way, people who have not really liberated their sexuality, there's something off. And I think as a fully integrated human being, spiritually, kind of, with all this awareness into oneness, the sexual component needs to be liberated, utterly, radically, completely freed.
What does that mean?
That means that you are not a hunt pussy. You're not addicted to any gratification. You're not climaxing based on you need to reproduce every day, sometimes twice.
3, 4.
Or 3, 4, and whenever the beast comes through and just wants to run the show, just like say, hey, welcome, let's see what the show is today, but you're not running the show. This is a co-creation of reality and life, and I'm not dependent on, I don't need to have it, but I don't need to suppress it either.
No, the drive is pretty strong. You can't suppress it. You're gonna go insane. You need to find an outlet, like something creative, maybe. I don't know.
Or a purpose.
Or a purpose, yeah. The purpose of finding oneness. That's your...
The purpose of finding oneness. I don't know, we just actually... I think we just did a kind of big loop from that question about co-regulation, self-regulation.
Yeah, I was going to come back to that. This was a super good side way. But how do you start to self-regulate then?
Well, this is an interesting thing that most people who have not learned to self-regulate, they have no access to it because neurologically they don't have any pathways activated. And luckily enough, there is this structure existing in the nervous system that we can rebuild different pathways, and we can literally through continuous action rewire our nervous system. And for example, when I just said this thing about being in action and feeling, this is one of the key components that I say, just like, well, as long as you have access to that, because you release oxytocin in your central brain that is